Get ready. Get set. Hold on. It's going to be one hell of a ride. Good morning. This is the Mouth of Matuszak show. I'm your host, Paul-Gregory Matuszak. For this Monday, August 18th, 2014. And the month is just flying by, isn't it, folks? On Friday, we talked about quite a few things. We had a interesting week last week. Some bad news, some worse news. And towards the end of the week, we were able to make things a little bit lighter. So let's get this week kicked off. Let's roll up our sleeves. Let's get to work. Start pursuing that happiness and that prosperity so that we can have something to enjoy during our off time. So welcome to the work week, folks. And I hope it's a good one for y'all. So, what kind of things we have going on? We have all sorts of things to discuss. But we have two main issues that are kind of echoing around the sphere, as it may be. So, but before we get to that, Friday I played a little music clip, and I'm going to encore it right now. This is a couple years old, but it seems to never get old. This is Powdered Zombies, otherwise known as comedian Stephen Crowder, and music producer and musician Chris Lash, with Mr. America.
Mr. America, look what you've done.
Yeah, looking at the country is not what I intended. Gotta start to make a change before the never-ending story of a failed nation runs straight out of luck. Like $1 million Tyler Perry movies, you suck. All your little have life, you're still selfish and want more voting in your self-interest now instead of the core principles that made this country both honest and true. Free to speak, worship, pursuit of your happiness too. With all the money you fly, you gon' be needing a big freeze. Hate the size of the Fed like Jesus hated the fig tree. As the spending goes up, you gotta borrow some more. Borrowing from the Chinese like, oh my lord. Instead you just tax more, you're increasing the size of the federal government. Yeah, the Georgia surprise. You'll be done like Detroit, man, no you ain't coming back. Forget it, I'm out, I'm muzzle loading my
Mr. America, look what you've done. You trade your liberty and sovereignty for lies and promises. Mr. America, don't you run away. You pick up pieces up and face the problems, you'll be great again. I got tired of rolling over in my grave every day, making a monarchy of my beloved U.S. of A. Your little glitches need reminding of what we were before, and the sits that led us up to revolutionary war. High taxes to the throne without a voice of our own. Rule top down from the crime we wanted left alone. Oh, y'all so soft, you're taking it year after year. We were fighting red coats while we're brewing our beer. Now I'm drinking, spitting ciphers through a grill made of wood. That's how it all went down in G-Dub's neighborhood. Packing capping balls like powder hammers with cock, lock, click, clack. The loss of backs like the attack. The chicken littles who don't know me, listen, don't let it twist. We kick the A's of the B's for much less than this. So don't deny the historical climbing out of the mud. Follow me, believe this creed, plant the seeds and be Mr.
free.
America, look what you've done. You trade your liberty and sovereignty for lies and promises. Mr. America, don't you run away. You pick up pieces up and face the problems, you'll be great again.
On the warrants at 8-5 when it's really at 12. Hear me, classes in session, you can't be saved by the bell. What happens when you keep printing more dough? Both parties have gone green like their name was Al Gore. Yeah, but right now you're high. Hey, ain't you big hitter? But now I'm back from the dead. I'm bringing back all my niggas. Man, you think I say that? What's wrong with you? I'm just talking about my show back then. I rock with my shoe. But let's go back to the first point I was trying to make. The degradation only change you're gonna get is being left with the bill.
Mr. America, look what you've done. You trade your liberty and sovereignty for lies and promises. Mr. America, don't you run away. You pick up pieces up and face the problems. You'll be great again. Mr. America. Whoa, whoa. Mr. America. Whoa, whoa.
Yeah. Get your week going there. A little bit of Mr. America by Powdered Zombies, otherwise known as Stephen Crowder and Chris Lash. Good little song. It's a couple of years old, but hey, it still applies, doesn't it, folks? And not only that, it's got a catchy tune. And if you get a chance to go over and look at Steve Crowder's YouTube feed, you'll find the video there. It's probably a little bit down on the list because, like I said, it is a couple of years old. Or you could just do a search for Powdered Zombies, Mr. America on there, and you'll find it. Great video. A lot of more better known people from the conservative and libertarian movements kind of make a few cameo appearances in the video. And for those of you who like to catch a glimpse once in a while of some of the conservative talking heads doing something a little bit less serious, I guess is the term for it. It's a good video for that too. You can see that they're real people and enjoy doing something once in a while just for the fun of it, so to speak. Anyway, great video. I highly suggest looking at it. Also, you can download it. I'd have to find the site for you folks, and I'll get that for you probably for tomorrow. But you can download the MP3, and the proceeds, from what I understand, go to a couple of good causes. So go ahead and take a look for that at your leisure, of course. And on to news. What's going on in the world? What's going on with our government?
You don't have a right to know everything in a separation of powers government, my friend. That is the difference between a parliamentary government and a separation of powers government.
Thank you, Representative Eleanor Holmes Norton, for your delightful insight into something that has nothing to do with the way our government is designed to run according to the Constitution. So thank you for demonstrating your ignorance once again at the start of our show. And unfortunately, I have to say I don't have too much news coming out of the federal government today to share, which normally I use that little clip as a segue into to bringing out shedding some light on what's coming out of Washington. But Congress is still in recess, which means they a good portion of them are on vacation. Shouldn't be, but they're on vacation. And other ones are back in their home districts. If we're talking about your representatives for the House, they're probably campaigning for their reelection, and the senators are out campaigning either for somebody else's reelection or for their own. So that's what they're doing, folks. Now, some of them are doing the right thing. They're holding town halls, finding out what's going on with their constituents, and of course, trying to bring the voice of their people, their constituents, their congressional district or their state back to Washington, and hopefully that's what they are doing. From what I've seen coming out of Ted Cruz's office, he's doing a fair mix of both. He's campaigning for those he thinks would lend good leadership to Congress, as well as going and doing his town halls and finding out what the people want. Haven't heard much out of Cornyn. For those of you that follow Texas politics, I haven't heard much out of Cornyn, which is strange. I usually get something once a week from his office as well. But we'll get into Texas politics a little bit later. Right now, I want to take a little trip to Ferguson, Missouri. Yeah, it's still in the news, folks. It's been over a week, and I think they had one night, maybe. I think it was like maybe last Thursday night, where it was semi-peaceful with their protests for once. At least that's what was reported. But it's not necessarily the case. You still have some riots going on, have a lot of conflicting stories, and there's a lot of emotions riding high on what's going on in Ferguson. But some of the latest things I've heard, and some of you can go ahead and look around the web and kind of take a look for yourself instead of only listening to one side of the story. But there are now rumors, I guess is the best way to put it, because I'd really like to see some confirmation myself, but that most of the rioters and looters and troublemakers are, at first they were saying they were coming from outside of Ferguson, Missouri, and even outside the St. Louis area, but from nearby areas, and they were using the excuse to go in there and rob and steal and cause trouble within this neighborhood that wasn't even theirs. Basically, going someplace else and using an excuse to be thugs. Well, now the latest rumors are that they're coming from outside the state, and in fact, well, not in fact, but according to the rumors, a good number of them are actually gang members coming down from Chicago to go and cause trouble and attack the police and steal and rob and beat people for no real reason other than they think they can get away with it because it's a big mob action that's going on. So that's the latest round of rumors as far as who's inciting the violence. And like I said before, the whole violence there involved is just flat out stupid. I mean, really, if this was a racially motivated shooting, if it were, and it was against the people of your ethnic background or skin color, the dumbest thing you could do is to turn around and use violence in response. I am a huge supporter, a huge follower of Dr. Martin Luther King when it comes to that. What are you going to do to help bring about peace, bring about equal opportunity for people of all ethnic backgrounds, if you're turning around and doing violence because somebody did something violent towards your ethnic group? Not to you individually, but just somebody who happens to have the same skin pigmentation or the same attachment to their last name, if you're like Slavic or Irish or whatever it may be, or happens to worship in the same religion. If you're going around and causing violence, you're doing your own, in essence, your own people, if you want to use that term, your own ethnic heritage demographic a disservice by being violent back, especially in that manner, in a manner where you're stealing from innocent people. You're hurting people who had nothing directly to do with the whole incident. And then we have our own justice system. If you're calling for lynchings and mob rule and that sort of so-called social justice or mob justice, which it isn't justice, it's I'm even trying to find a decent word for it because it's not even vengeance, it's worse. But if you're calling for that, instead of letting our court system handle things properly and letting the person be judged on the merits of his or her defense and sentenced based on the evidence, if it is enough to prove a crime beyond a reasonable doubt, if you're not following that system, which may not be perfect, but it's the best one on the planet, then you're just doing a injustice to the people around you, regardless of race, creed, or color. It's just flat out stupid, and I've said that a couple of times over, folks. I feel like I've beat a dead horse into glue and then use that glue to affix posters of the same thing all over, in the process of bringing that up. For those who actually, go and follow Martin Luther King's teachings, along with Gandhi, which is where Dr. King got a lot of his ideas. If you actually go and look at what they say, You do have a right to defend yourself. Gandhi even said that you do have a right to defend yourself when you've hit a limit where you can no longer accept violence done to yourself. But that doesn't give you a right to go and willfully harm others. And you do your message a disservice by using violence to push for peace in that manner. It's just dumb. So, yeah, there's my 2 cents on it. But all kinds of interesting other things have come out of Ferguson over the weekend. And for those of you who like to take a weekend away from current events and just enjoy being with your family, some of you may not be completely up to speed on many of the things that have been going on. But over the weekend, there were 2 journalists last week who were arrested at a McDonald's. Their arrest is kind of questionable as to exactly what they were or weren't doing, but from what I've seen, through the filter that I've seen, they were arrested pretty much just for being journalists, which is, as you know, a violation of the First Amendment. And I could care less what political bias a journalist may or may not have, or if they have an agenda in writing a story from a particular angle. It doesn't matter. They still have a right to be there and to do their jobs as journalists. That's protected by the First Amendment, as I already stated. But they were arrested and jailed for a period of time, not very long, but just long enough to get them out of the area and to stop them from filming, etc., etc. And that was a wrong. But one of the journalists who was arrested worked for the Huffington Post. And the Huffington Post does have a couple of journalists on staff that are good journalists, and they tend to be a little bit less biased. They do try to look for facts and report facts. Of course, then again, it is the Huffington Post, so they do tend to have a political bias in there. Ariana Huffington has a very strong bias towards the left side, as we all know. But still, they do have a level of ethics there as a general basis. However, Ryan Riley was in Ferguson doing his reporting, but he was trying to do it, I guess, from a filter of he hates guns. He wants stricter gun control. So, of course, he was trying to find dirt on the police officer and try to say this is due to guns and gun violence and blah, 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 and he shot an unarmed man, blah, blah, blah. Whatever his side of the story is with that, he's still kind of kicked out. I wouldn't say necessarily a report, but he started putting up on Twitter that he saw something there that people needed to know. He saw these orange things that were flat on one side with a flanged end on that side and kind of rounded on the other end. And of course, in his infinite wisdom and his knowledge, in-depth knowledge of firearms and munitions and everything, he put all over Twitter that he saw orange rubber bullets all over Ferguson being carried by all sorts of people, especially the police officers. And I guess now the National Guard is there. We'll get to that in a moment. And he saw these. They're rubber bullets, folks, right? Anybody who has done any amount of shooting or has even gone to a range and considered purchasing a firearm or gone to a gun store or even your local Walmart in the gun section has seen these, in air quotes here, folks, rubber bullets. They're not bullets. They're not even cased. I would find it very difficult to even case these things. And if you were to do so and you were to case them and fire them, they would probably burn up inside your barrel and ruin your weapon. But they're earplugs, folks. This journalist who writes on all kinds of gun stuff because he's anti-gun and hates them couldn't even bother to do any amount of research into his own, in quotes, area of expertise and find out what these things really were. So he took to Twitter and started tweeting pictures of these rubber bullets.